Samuel Mackenzie stood on the wooden train platform and pulled out his pocket watch for the 10th time in 5 minutes. 2 o'clock. The train from Boston was late again. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other and looked down the empty railroad tracks that stretched far into the distance. In his left hand, he held a small bunch of wildflowers he had picked that morning. Purple lupins and yellow black-eyed Susans grew wild near his ranch house. He thought Catherine might like them. Catherine Wells, his mail-order bride, the woman he had been writing letters to for 3 whole years. Sam was 42 years old. He had lived alone on his cattle ranch in Montana for 15 years. Every morning, he woke up to silence. Every evening, he ate dinner by himself. He cooked his own meals, which were usually beans and beef jerky. He mended his own clothes with big, clumsy stitches. He talked to his cattle and his horse more than he talked to people. The loneliness had started to eat at him like a slow disease. That was why he had placed an advertisement in a Boston newspaper 3 years ago. Rancher seeks wife. Must be clean, quiet, and able to cook. Write to Samuel Mackenzie, Copper Creek Ranch, Montana. Catherine Wells had been the only woman who answered his advertisement. She wrote in neat handwriting on cream-colored paper. She told him she was 28 years old and worked as a school teacher. She said she wanted a quiet life in the country. She promised she could cook and keep house. She said she had brown hair and blue eyes and was not pretty but not ugly either. Sam had written back immediately. For 3 years they had exchanged letters every month. Catherine wrote about her students and the books she read. Sam wrote about his cattle and the weather and the way the mountains looked when snow covered them. Slowly, carefully, they had built something that felt like friendship through their letters. Catherine had finally agreed to come west and marry him. She said she would wear a blue dress so he could find her at the train station. Sam had sent her money for the train ticket and enough extra to buy a new dress if she needed one. Now he stood waiting, nervous as a schoolboy. He had shaved that morning and put on his best shirt. His dark hair was combed back with water. His boots were polished. He wanted to make a good first impression. A train whistle sounded in the distance. Sam's heart started beating faster. He straightened his shoulders and practiced what he would say. "Miss Wells, I am Samuel Mackenzie. Welcome to Montana." He had practiced those words in front of his mirror that morning. The train came around the bend, black smoke pouring from its smokestack. It was a freight train with 2 passenger cars at the end. The engine was loud and powerful, pulling its load with steady determination. Sam watched as it slowed down and finally stopped at the platform with a great hiss of steam. The conductor stepped down and placed a wooden stool by the passenger car steps. "Copper Creek," he called out. "Copper Creek Station." Sam watched the train car door open. An elderly man with a walking stick came down first. Then a middle-aged woman in a gray dress carrying a small suitcase. Sam looked for Blue. He looked for a neat, quiet schoolteacher with brown hair. Instead, he saw something that made his mouth fall open. A woman in a faded brown dress stepped carefully down from the train. Her dress was wrinkled and dusty from travel. Her brown hair was pulled back, but loose pieces hung around her tired face. She looked older than 28. She looked like she had been through hard times. But that was not what shocked Sam the most. Following behind the woman came children. 5 children. First came a girl who looked about 16. She had the same brown hair as the woman, but her face was set in a hard, angry expression. She carried a baby who could not have been more than 2 years old. Then came a boy who might have been 14. He was thin and pale, like he had not eaten enough good food for a long time. His clothes were too small for him. Next came a little girl with big blue eyes. She looked about 8 years old. She held the hands of 2 boys, who were clearly twins. The twins looked about 6 years old and stayed close together like they were scared. All 5 children looked tired and dusty. Their clothes were clean but worn and patched. They stayed close to the woman like baby chicks staying close to their mother hen. Sam stood frozen with his bunch of wildflowers in his hand. This could not be Catherine Wells. Catherine Wells was a single school teacher with no children. Catherine Wells had never mentioned a family in any of her letters, but the woman was walking straight toward him. She looked at him with recognition in her eyes, like she knew exactly who he was. "Mr. Mackenzie?" she said in a clear voice. She did not sound ashamed or sorry. She sounded determined, like a person who had made up her mind about something difficult. Sam could not speak. He could only stare at her and the 5 children who stood behind her like a small army. "I am Mary Catherine Wells," the woman said. She held out her hand for him to shake. Her hand was rough from hard work, not soft like a schoolteacher's hand should be. "I know this is not what you expected. I know I should have told you the truth, in my letters. But I was desperate, Mr. Mackenzie. We were desperate." Sam finally found his voice. "Children?" was all he could manage to say. "These are my children," Mary said. She put her hand on the shoulder of the 16-year-old girl. "This is Emma, my oldest. She is 16. This is Thomas, who is 14. The thin boy nodded but did not smile. "This is Sarah, who is 8. The little girl with blue eyes gave Sam a small wave. "These are the twins, Jacob and Joshua. They are 6. The 2 boys moved closer together. "And this is baby Margaret. She is 2. Sam felt like the ground was moving under his feet. In all his planning and dreaming about his mail-order bride, he had never imagined this. He had pictured a quiet woman who would cook his meals and sit by the fire in the evenings while he read his newspapers. He had not pictured children running around his house, asking questions, needing food and clothes and attention. "I understand. If you cannot honor our agreement," Mary said. Her voice was steady, but Sam could see worry in her blue eyes. "I understand if you want to put us back on the next train east. But before you decide, could you tell me if there is work in town? Any kind of work where I could support my children?" Sam looked at the 5 children again. They all looked tired and hungry. The baby was starting to fuss, and Emma bounced her gently. The twins held each other's hands tightly. Sarah looked up at Sam with big, trusting eyes. Other people on the platform were starting to stare. The train conductor was checking his pocket watch, ready to leave again. Sam made a decision that surprised even himself. "Get your bags," he said quietly. "I will take you to the ranch." Mary's eyes widened with surprise and relief. "Mr. Mackenzie, we can talk at the ranch," Sam said. He bent down and picked up 2 worn suitcases. "Come on, my wagon is over here." As they walked toward his wagon, Sam wondered what in the world he had just gotten himself into. The wagon ride to Sam's ranch took 2 hours. Mary sat on the front seat next to Sam, holding baby Margaret. The other children sat in the back of the wagon on top of their few belongings. Nobody talked much during the ride. Sam kept looking sideways at Mary, trying to understand what had happened. This woman looked nothing like the Catherine Wells he had imagined. Her hands were rough and calloused. Her face was thin, like she had not been eating enough. Her dress was faded from many washings. She looked like a woman who had been working hard and struggling to survive. The children were quiet, but Sam could feel them watching him. Every time he turned around, 5 pairs of eyes were studying him. The 16-year-old girl, Emma, looked angry and suspicious. The 14-year-old boy, Thomas, looked worried but trying to be brave. Little Sarah kept smiling at him shyly. The twins stayed close together and whispered to each other in voices too low to hear. Sam's ranch house came into view as they topped a small hill. It was a simple wooden house with 3 bedrooms and a kitchen. There was a barn, a chicken coop, and several fenced areas for cattle. Sam had always thought it was a good size for a man and his wife. Now, looking at it with 5 children in his wagon, it seemed very small. "Is that your house?" Sarah asked, leaning forward between Sam and Mary. "Yes," Sam said. "That is home." The word home hung in the air. Sam wondered if he should have said my house instead. He was not sure yet if these people would be staying long enough for it to be their home too. When they reached the house, Sam helped Mary down from the wagon. The children climbed out and stood in a small group, looking around at the wide open spaces. Emma still held the baby. Thomas stayed close to his mother. The twins held hands and stared at everything with big eyes. "It is so quiet," Sarah said, in a whisper. It was quiet. Sam had always loved the quiet of his ranch. Now he wondered if these children, who had grown up in a busy city, would find the silence strange and lonely. "Let us go inside," Sam said. "You must be hungry and tired." The inside of Sam's house was clean but very plain. There was a kitchen with a wood stove and a simple table. The front room had 2 chairs and a fireplace. Down a short hallway were 3 bedrooms. Sam's bedroom was the largest. The other 2 bedrooms were small, with just enough room for a bed and a dresser. Mary looked around the house without saying anything. Sam could see her counting bedrooms and trying to figure out how 5 children could fit in such a small space. "We'll make some coffee," Sam said, "and there is bread and butter." As Sam worked in the kitchen, he listened to Mary talking quietly to her children in the front room. "Emma, take Margaret to the window and show her the horses," Mary said. "Thomas, help the twins wash their hands at the pump outside. Sarah, you sit here and rest." Mary spoke to her children with gentle authority. Sam could tell she was used to taking care of everyone. She was used to being in charge and making sure everyone was safe and fed. When they sat down to eat bread and drink coffee, Sam finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind all afternoon. "Why did you not tell me about the children in your letters?" Mary put down her coffee cup and looked directly at Sam. "Because I knew you would not want a woman with 5 children. No man wants a ready-made family, especially not 5 children." "But you lied to me," Sam said. He was not angry, but he was confused and hurt. For 3 years, he had thought he knew Catherine Wells. Now he found out she was someone completely different. "I did not lie about everything," Mary said quietly. "My name really is Mary Catherine Wells. I really was a school teacher. I really can cook and keep house. I really do want a quiet life in the country. But you did not tell me about your husband. You did not tell me you were a widow." Mary's face became very sad. "My husband was named James. He worked in a factory in Boston. 18 months ago, there was an accident at the factory. A big machine broke and fell on him. He died that same day." The children became very still when their mother talked about their father. Even baby Margaret seemed to sense the sadness and stopped trying to grab things from the table. "James was a good man," Mary continued, "but he did not make much money. When he died, the factory gave me $50 and said they were sorry. $50 to raise 5 children alone." Sam began to understand. $50 would not last long for a woman with 5 children. "I tried to keep working as a teacher," Mary said, "but the school said I could not bring the baby with me. They said it would disturb the other children. I tried to find someone to watch Margaret during the day, but I could not afford to pay anyone." Emma, the oldest girl, spoke up for the first time. "Mama took in washing and sewing to try to make money. She worked from morning until night, but it was never enough." Mary nodded. "The rent on our little apartment was $8 a month. Food and coal for heat cost more money. I sold everything we owned except for our clothes and a few dishes, but it was not enough. Last month the landlord said we had to leave. He said if we could not pay the rent, we had to be out by the end of April." "Where would you have gone?" Sam asked. "I do not know," Mary said honestly. "There are places in the city where poor people can go, but they are terrible places. I have heard stories about what happens to children in those places. I could not let my children end up there." Thomas, the 14-year-old boy, looked at Sam with serious eyes. "That is when Mama saw your advertisement in an old newspaper. Someone had left the newspaper on a bench at the train station. Mama said it was like a sign from God." Mary smiled sadly at her son. "I know it was wrong to answer your advertisement without telling you the truth, but I was so scared, Mr. Mackenzie. I was scared of what would happen to my children. When I read your letters, you seemed like a good man, a kind man. I thought maybe if you met us, you might be willing to help us." Sam looked around the table, at the 6 faces watching him. Mary looked tired and worried, but still proud. Emma looked defiant, like she was ready to fight anyone who tried to hurt her family. Thomas looked like he was trying to be the man of the family, even though he was only 14. Sarah looked hopeful, like she believed everything would work out fine. The twins just looked confused and tired. Baby Margaret was falling asleep, in Emma's arms. "What did you think would happen when I saw the children?" Sam asked. "I hoped you might let us stay long enough for me to find work," Mary said. "I hoped you might know of someone in town who needed help with cooking or cleaning. I know I cannot be the wife you wanted, Mr. Mackenzie, but maybe I could work for you until I saved enough money to take care of my children somewhere else." Sam was quiet for a long time. He looked out the window at his peaceful ranch. He thought about his quiet evenings reading by the fire. He thought about his simple life with no complications and no responsibilities except for his cattle. Then he looked back at the children. Little Sarah had fallen asleep with her head on the table. The twins were leaning against each other, their eyes closing. Even Emma looked ready to fall over from exhaustion. These children needed a safe place to sleep tonight. They needed food in their stomachs and a roof over their heads. They needed someone to take care of them. Sam had been alone for 15 years. He had gotten used to taking care of only himself. He did not know anything about children. He did not know how to be a father or even how to live with other people. But looking at these tired, hungry children, Sam knew he could not put them back on a train to nowhere. At least not tonight. "You can stay here tonight," Sam said finally. "Tomorrow we will figure out what to do next." Mary's eyes filled with tears of relief. "Thank you, Mr. Mackenzie, thank you so much." Emma looked surprised that Sam was being kind to them. Thomas straightened his shoulders like a weight had been lifted from them. Sarah smiled in her sleep. Sam stood up from the table. "Emma, you and the baby can sleep in the small bedroom on the left. Mary, you can take the other small bedroom. Thomas can sleep on the couch in the front room. The twins and Sarah can make beds on the floor in your room, Mary." "Where will you sleep?" Mary asked. "I will sleep in the barn tonight," Sam said. "It will not be the first time." As Sam walked toward the door, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. Yesterday he had been a simple rancher waiting for a quiet wife. Tonight he was sharing his house with a woman and 5 children who had nowhere else to go. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring. Sam woke up in the barn before sunrise just like he did every morning. But this morning was different. Instead of the usual silence, he could hear voices coming from his house. Children's voices. The reality of what had happened yesterday hit him like a cold splash of water. He had 5 children and a widow in his house. 5 children who needed food and clothes and attention. A woman who was not the quiet school teacher he had been expecting for 3 years. His simple, peaceful life had been turned upside down in one afternoon. Sam got up from the pile of hay where he had slept and brushed the straw from his clothes. His back ached from sleeping on the ground. He was 42 years old, too old, to be sleeping in barns. But where else could he sleep? His house only had 3 bedrooms. With 6 extra people, there was no room for him. He walked to the house slowly, trying to think about what he would say to Mary. In the light of morning, his decision to let them stay seemed crazy. What did he know about taking care of children? What did he know about being responsible for a whole family? When he opened the kitchen door, he found Mary already awake and working at the stove. She had found his coffee and was making breakfast. She was still wearing the same faded brown dress from yesterday, but she had pinned her hair up neatly and washed her face. "Good morning, Mr. Mackenzie," she said quietly. "I hope you slept well." Sam did not want to tell her that he had spent most of the night staring at the barn ceiling and wondering what to do. "Good morning," he said. "You did not have to make breakfast." "I wanted to," Mary said. "You have been very kind to us. It is the least I can do." The smell of bacon and eggs filled the kitchen. Sam realized that Mary was a much better cook than he was. The food smelled better than anything he had made for himself in 15 years. One by one, the children came into the kitchen. Little Sarah came first, rubbing her eyes and looking around with curiosity. The twins came next, staying close together like they always did. Thomas came in looking serious and older than his 14 years. Emma came last, carrying baby Margaret, who was fussing and needed to be fed. "Good morning, Mr. Mackenzie," Sarah said politely. "Thank you for letting us sleep in your house." "You are welcome," Sam said. He was not used to talking to children. He did not know what else to say. The twins, Jacob and Joshua, stared at Sam with big eyes but did not say anything. Thomas nodded respectfully, but kept his distance. Emma ignored Sam completely and focused on feeding the baby. They all sat down at Sam's small kitchen table, which was too small for 7 people. Sam had to bring in a wooden crate for one of the twins to sit on. Everyone was crowded together, elbows bumping as they tried to eat. This was exactly what Sam had been afraid of. His quiet, orderly house had become noisy and crowded overnight. There was not enough room for everyone. There was not enough of anything for 7 people. After breakfast, Mary sent the children outside to play while she cleaned the dishes. Sam stood by the window watching them explore his ranch. The twins were fascinated by his chickens and kept trying to catch them. Sarah was picking wildflowers. Thomas was examining his tools in the barn. Emma sat on the porch steps with the baby, looking unhappy about everything. "Mr. Mackenzie," Mary said from behind him, "we need to talk." Sam turned around. Mary had finished the dishes and was drying her hands on a towel. She looked tired, but determined. "I know this is not what you wanted," Mary said. "I know you did. Not sign up to take care of 5 children. I understand if you want us to leave." Sam did not answer right away. He had been thinking about exactly that all night. The smart thing to do would be to put them all on the next train back to Boston. He could give Mary some money to help her get started somewhere else. He could go back to his quiet life alone. But where would they go? Mary had already told him they had no money and no place to live. If he sent them back to Boston, what would happen to them? "Where would you go if you left here?" Sam asked. Mary looked down at her hands. "I do not know. I wrote to my sister in Philadelphia, but she has 6 children of her own and no room for us. I wrote to my brother in Chicago, but he never answered my letter. I think he does not want to be responsible for us either." "What about the children's father? Did he have family?" "James was an orphan," Mary said. "He had no family except us." Sam walked to the window again and watched the children. Sarah had found his old rope and was trying to teach the twins how to jump rope. They were laughing and having fun for the first time since they arrived. Even Emma was smiling a little as she watched them. "How much money do you have?" Sam asked. $12, Mary said quietly. "That is all that is left from what you sent me for the train ticket?" $12. That would not even pay for train tickets back to Boston, much less help them start a new life somewhere else. Sam felt trapped. He had been planning for a quiet wife who would fit easily into his simple life. Instead, he had gotten a ready-made family that needed everything he did not know how to give, but he could not just throw them out with nowhere to go. "The house is too small," Sam said, thinking out loud. 3 bedrooms for 7 people. It will not work." "I know," Mary said. "Maybe I could take the children into town. Maybe someone there needs help with cooking or cleaning." Sam had been to town many times. It was a small place with not many jobs. Most families took care of their own cooking and cleaning. The few jobs that existed paid very little money. Certainly not enough to support a woman and 5 children. "There is not much work in town," Sam said honestly. Mary nodded. She had probably guessed that already. They stood in silence for a few minutes. Outside, Thomas had found Sam's hammer and was trying to fix a loose board on the chicken coop. The boy was trying to be helpful, trying to earn his keep. Sam could see that Thomas was scared but trying to be brave for his family. "What if we tried it for a while?" Sam heard himself saying. The words came out before he had really thought about them. Mary looked up in surprise. "What do you mean?" "What if you and the children stayed here for a month or 2, just until we can figure out something better? I could build a room onto the house to make more space. You could help with the cooking and cleaning. The older children could help with ranch work." Mary stared at him. "Mr. Mackenzie, do you mean that? You would really let us stay?" Sam was not sure why he was saying this. Maybe it was because the children looked so thin and tired. Maybe it was because Mary was trying so hard to take care of them all by herself. Maybe it was because his house had felt more alive this morning with voices and laughter than it had felt in 15 years. "It would just be temporary," Sam said quickly. "Just until you can find something better. And everyone would have to help. The children would have to do chores and follow rules. This is a working ranch, not a place for people to sit around and do nothing. Tears started running down Mary's face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much. I promise we will not be any trouble. I promise we will work hard and help however we can." Sam felt uncomfortable with her tears. He was not used to people being emotional around him. "It is just temporary," he said again. "Just for a month or two." But even as he said the words, Sam wondered if he was making a huge mistake. He had lived alone for 15 years. He liked his quiet life. He liked having control over everything in his world. Now he had just agreed to share his house and his ranch with 6 strangers, children who would need food and clothes and attention, a woman who was not the wife he had been expecting. Outside, little Sarah had discovered his barn cat and was trying to coax it to let her pet it. The twins were chasing butterflies in the meadow. Thomas was still working on the chicken coop, determined to fix it properly. Emma was walking around the house, probably trying to figure out how to make such a small space work for so many people. These children had been through so much already. They had lost their father. They had lost their home. They had traveled hundreds of miles to live with a stranger who had not even known they existed. Sam could not solve all their problems. He was just one man with a small ranch and a small house. But maybe he could give them a safe place to stay while they figured out what to do next. "We will try it for a month," Sam said firmly. "1 month. Then we will see what happens." Mary nodded eagerly. "1 month, that is all I ask. Just a chance to prove that we can make this work." Sam hoped he was not making the biggest mistake of his life. The first week at the ranch was harder than anyone had expected. Sam had lived alone for so long that he had forgotten how to share space with other people. Every morning, he woke up to the sound of children talking and baby Margaret crying. The kitchen was always busy with Mary making breakfast for 7 people instead of just 1. The small house felt even smaller with so many bodies moving around in it. The children were struggling too. They had grown up in a busy city where there were always people around and things happening. The ranch felt lonely and strange to them. At night, they could hear coyotes howling in the distance, which scared the younger ones. During the day, there was nothing to do except chores and more chores. Emma, the 16-year-old, was the most unhappy. She missed her friends in Boston. She missed going to school and having dreams about her future. Now she spent her days taking care of baby Margaret and helping her mother with endless cooking and cleaning. "I hate it here," Emma told her mother, one evening when she thought Sam could not hear. "There is nothing to do and nowhere to go. We are stuck in the middle of nowhere with a stranger who does not even want us here." Mary tried to comfort her oldest daughter, but Sam could see that Emma's unhappiness was wearing on everyone. The girl's angry attitude made mealtimes uncomfortable and filled the small house with tension. Thomas, on the other hand, threw himself into ranch work with an intensity that worried Sam. The 14-year-old boy got up before sunrise every morning and worked until dark every evening. He mucked out stalls, fed chickens, mended fences, and tried to do anything that might prove he was earning his keep. "You do not have to work so hard," Sam told the boy one afternoon when he found Thomas trying to move a pile of rocks that was too heavy for him. "Yes, I do," Thomas said, breathing hard from the effort. "I am the man of the family now. I have to take care of everyone." Sam could see that Thomas felt responsible for his mother and sisters. The boy was trying to grow up too fast, trying to be someone he was not ready to be yet. The younger children adapted better, but they had their own struggles. Sarah, the 8-year-old, was curious about everything on the ranch. She followed Sam around asking endless questions. "Why do the cows moo? How do chickens lay eggs? Where does milk come from? Can I ride your horse? Why is the sky so big here?" Sam was not used to talking so much. After an hour of Sarah's questions, his head would start to ache. He began to understand why some animals eat their young. The twins, Jacob and Joshua, stayed close together and spoke in whispers. They seemed afraid of making too much noise or taking up too much space. When Sam spoke to them, they answered in voices so quiet he could barely hear them. "Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you, sir." They acted like they expected to be sent away at any moment if they caused any trouble. Baby Margaret cried more than Sam thought any baby should cry. She cried when she was hungry. She cried when she was tired. She cried when she was wet. She cried for no reason that anyone could figure out. The sound echoed through the small house and made everyone's nerves raw. Mary worked from sunrise to sunset, trying to take care of everyone and everything. She cooked 3 meals a day for 7 people. She washed clothes by hand in a big tub outside. She cleaned the house, mended torn clothes, and took care of the baby. By evening, she was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open. But the real problems went deeper than just being crowded and overworked. The children did not know how to do ranch work. Emma had never milked a cow or gathered eggs. Thomas was eager to help, but did not know the difference between a pitchfork and a hay rake. The twins were afraid of the cattle and ran away whenever the big animals came near them. Sam was not good at teaching. He had learned ranch work by growing up on a ranch. He knew how to do things, but he did not know how to explain them to city children who had never seen a cow up close before. When Emma tried to milk their old cow, Bessie, she squeezed too hard and the cow kicked over the milk bucket. When Thomas tried to feed the chickens, he scattered the grain too widely and wasted half of it. When the twins tried to collect eggs, they dropped more than they saved. Sam found himself getting frustrated, which made him feel guilty. These children were trying their best. It was not their fault that they did not know ranch life, but the work still had to be done. Cattle needed to be fed. Fences needed to be mended. Equipment needed to be maintained. Sam was used to doing everything, himself, quickly and efficiently. Now everything took twice as long because he had to stop and explain things to people who did not understand. The worst part was mealtimes. Sam's kitchen table was built for 4 people at most, with 7 people. Trying to eat at it, everyone was crowded and uncomfortable. Elbows bumped into each other. There was not enough room for all the dishes. The children had to eat in shifts, which made dinner last for an hour instead of 15 minutes. Sam was used to eating his meals in peaceful silence. Now meal times were full of conversation and questions, and baby Margaret's fussing. Emma complained about everything. Thomas asked serious questions about ranch management that Sam did not know how to answer. Sarah chattered about everything she had seen during the day. The twins whispered to each other in their secret language. By the end of each day, Sam's head was pounding from all the noise and activity. He had never realized how much he valued quiet until he did not have it anymore. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Sam walked out to the barn to check on his horse. He needed a few minutes of peace and quiet. But little Sarah followed him. "Mr. Sam," she said, using the name she had started calling him. "Are you mad at us?" Sam looked down at the little girl with her big blue eyes and serious expression. "Why would you think I am mad?" "Because you look sad all the time now. And you do not smile much. Emma says you are sorry you let us stay here." Sam felt a sharp pain in his chest. He had not realized that his frustration was so obvious to the children. The last thing he wanted was for them to feel unwanted or unwelcome. "I am not mad at you, Sarah," Sam said gently. "I am just learning how to live with other people. I have been alone for a long time. It is hard for me to change." "Mama says change is always hard," Sarah said. "She says we just have to be patient and keep trying." That night, Sam lay in his bed in the barn and thought about what Sarah had said. He had been so focused on how difficult the children were making his life that he had not thought about how difficult this was for them, too. These children had lost their father and their home. They had been forced to leave everything familiar and come to live with a stranger in a place that was completely different from anything they had ever known. Of course they were struggling. Of course they were scared and confused and sometimes angry. Emma missed her old life and was angry about losing it. Thomas felt responsible for taking care of everyone and was working too hard to prove his worth. The younger children were trying to figure out how to fit into a new world with new rules. Mary was trying to hold everyone together while dealing with her own grief and fear about the future. Sam realized that he had been thinking only about how their presence was disrupting his life. He had not been thinking about what they needed or how he could help them adjust to their new situation. Maybe the problem was not that they were making his life difficult. Maybe the problem was that he was not trying hard enough to make their lives easier. The next morning, Sam made a decision. Instead of working alone, he would take time to really teach the children how to help on the ranch. Instead of eating meals in frustrated silence, he would try to join in their conversations. Instead of thinking about how much he wanted his old quiet life back, he would focus on how to make their new life together work better. It would not be easy. Sam was not naturally good with people, especially children. But these 6 people were. Depending on him now, whether he had planned for it or not, he owed it to them to try harder. By the time autumn colors started showing on the mountains, something had changed at the ranch. The daily routines that had seemed impossible just a few weeks before were starting to feel natural. Everyone had found their place in the rhythm of ranch life. Emma discovered that she had a gift for numbers and organization. One morning, Sam found her sitting at the kitchen table with his account book spread out in front of her. "Mr. Mackenzie," she said without looking up from the pages of figures, "your bookkeeping is terrible. You have been losing money on feed costs because you are not tracking how much each cow eats." Sam looked over her shoulder at the neat columns of numbers she had written. Emma had organized his expenses in a way that made sense. She had calculated costs and profits that Sam had never bothered to figure out before. "You could save $40 a year if you bought grain in bulk during harvest season instead of buying small amounts all winter," Emma continued, "and you are not charging enough for your beef. Other ranchers in the valley are getting better prices." Sam was amazed. In just a few days, this 16-year-old girl had understood his business better than he did. "How do you know all this?" "I helped keep books for the store where Mama bought our groceries in Boston," Emma said. "The owner taught me how to track inventory and calculate profits. Numbers make sense to me." From that day forward, Emma took over managing the ranch's finances. She organized Sam's papers, tracked his expenses, and even started negotiating better prices with suppliers in town. For the first time since arriving at the ranch, Emma had something important to do. Something that made her feel valuable and needed. Thomas had found his place too. The boy had a natural way with animals that surprised everyone. He could calm a spooked horse with just his voice. He could spot a sick cow before anyone else noticed something was wrong. The cattle seemed to trust him in a way that usually took years to develop. "That boy has a gift," said old Pete Murphy when he came to buy some cattle from Sam. Pete was the most experienced rancher in the valley. "I have been working with cattle for 30 years, and I have never seen a youngster read animals the way he does." Thomas grew stronger and more confident as the weeks passed. His thin city frame filled out with muscle from the physical work. His pale face became tan from spending long days outdoors. Most importantly, he stopped trying so hard to be the man of the family and started just being a 14-year-old boy who was good at ranch work. The twins, Jacob and Joshua, appointed themselves caretakers of all the small animals on the ranch. They fed the chickens every morning and collected eggs every evening. They made sure the barn cats had fresh water and milk. They even befriended Sam's old dog, Rex, who had been suspicious of strangers for years. The twins had a special way of talking to animals. They would sit in the chicken coop for hours, making soft clucking sounds and having serious conversations with the hens. The chickens seemed to understand them, following the boys around the yard like they were part of the flock. "Those two are going to be fine farmers someday," Mary said one evening as they watched the twins teaching Rex a new trick. "They understand animals better than most grown men do." 8-year-old Sarah became Mary's devoted helper with baby Margaret and the household chores. She was too young for the heavier ranch work, but she had a gentle way with the baby and a cheerful attitude that brightened everyone's day. Sarah learned to churn butter and bake bread. She helped Mary with the washing and mending. She entertained baby Margaret for hours with songs and games. Most importantly, Sarah seemed to find joy in everything about ranch life, which helped everyone else remember what they had to be grateful for. Mary herself revealed skills that none of them had expected. She had learned about herbs and natural remedies from her grandmother, and she put that knowledge to work caring for the ranch animals. When one of Sam's best cows got sick and the veterinarian was too far away to help quickly, Mary mixed a special tea from wild plants she found near the creek She gave the tea to the cow 3 times a day, and within a week the animal was completely healthy again. "Where did you learn to do that?" Sam asked, amazed. "My grandmother lived on a farm in Ireland before she came to America," Mary explained. "She taught me which plants could heal and which plants were dangerous. I never thought I would need to use that knowledge, but I'm glad I remember it." Mary also had a talent for making things grow. Even though it was late in the growing season when they arrived, she managed to plant a small vegetable garden that produced more food than Sam had ever grown on his own. She found wild berries and nuts that could be stored for winter. She knew how to preserve meat and vegetables so they would last through the cold months. She could make soap from animal fat and lye. She could dye fabric with plants and roots. Sam began to appreciate having competent help, even if it came with constant noise and occasional chaos. The work that had always seemed overwhelming for one person was much easier when shared among several people, each doing what they did best. Mealtimes became less stressful as everyone adjusted to the crowded table. Emma helped serve the food and keep track of what everyone needed. Thomas made sure the younger children had enough to eat before he filled his own plate. Sarah entertained baby Margaret so Mary could eat her own dinner while it was still warm. The twins had stopped whispering and started talking in normal voices. They told stories about their adventures with the animals and asked Sam questions about ranching. Even baby Margaret seemed happier, crying less and smiling more as she got used to her new home. Sam found himself looking forward to dinner conversations instead of dreading them. Emma shared what she had learned from the account books. Thomas reported on the cattle and asked thoughtful questions about ranch management. Sarah told funny stories about the chickens and the cat. The twins entertained everyone with their imitations of different animal sounds. Even Mary seemed more relaxed. As the weeks passed, the deep worry lines around her eyes started to fade. She smiled more often and laughed at the children's jokes. She stopped looking like a woman who was barely surviving and started looking like a woman who was building a new life. One evening, in early October, Sam realized that he had not thought about his old quiet life in over a week. The constant activity that had once felt overwhelming now felt normal. The noise that had once given him headaches now sounded like life and energy and family. When the first snow fell early that year, trapping them all in the house for 3 days, Sam discovered something surprising. Instead of feeling crowded and restless, he enjoyed the forced togetherness. Emma worked on the account books by the fire while baby Margaret napped in her lap. Thomas and the twins played checkers and told stories. Sarah helped Mary with mending while listening to Sam read aloud from his one book, a collection of adventure stories. Mary sat in the corner with her sewing, looking peaceful and content for the first time since Sam had met her. Every so often she would look up and smile at her children, and Sam could see how grateful she was that they were all safe and warm and together. During those 3 snowy days, they stopped being strangers sharing the same house and started being something that felt like a family. Nobody said it out loud, but Sam could feel the change in the way they talked to each other and took care of each other. When the snow stopped and they could get back to their usual routines, something was different. The house that had once felt too small now felt like home. The work that had once seemed impossible was now just the normal rhythm of their shared life. Sam caught himself thinking less about the quiet life he had lost and more about the busy, noisy, complicated life he had gained. It was not the life he had planned, but it was turning out to be better than anything he had ever imagined. Winter came early and hard that year. By November, snow was already 3 feet deep around the ranch house. The wind howled across the plains day and night, making the small house creak and shiver. Sam had lived through many Montana winters, but this one seemed especially harsh. The worst blow came during a 3-day blizzard in December. Sam went out to check on the cattle and found 7 of his best cows frozen to death in the north pasture. The animals had gotten trapped against a fence during the storm and could not find shelter from the wind and snow. Sam stood looking at the dead cattle and felt his heart sink. Those 7 cows represented months of work and hundreds of dollars. Money he needed to buy feed for the remaining cattle, money he needed to support his suddenly large family. When he came back to the house, his face was grim. Mary took one look at him and sent the children to play in the front room while she and Sam talked privately in the kitchen. How bad is it? Mary asked quietly. Bad, Sam said honestly. Those cows were some of my best breeding stock. I was counting on selling their calves next spring to pay for winter feed and supplies. Mary sat down heavily at the kitchen table. What does that mean for us? Sam looked around the kitchen at the shelves that Mary had organized and filled with her preserves and dried vegetables. He thought about the children in the next room who had finally started to feel safe and settled. He thought about the account books that Emma had organized so carefully. It means money will be very tight, Sam said. We will have to be careful about every penny we spend. No new clothes unless someone absolutely needs them. No trips to town unless they are necessary. We will have to make everything we have last until spring. Mary nodded. She was used to making do with very little. The children will understand. We have been poor before. But the financial strain was just the beginning of their winter troubles. A week later, baby Margaret came down with a fever that would not break. She cried constantly and would not eat. Her little body was burning hot, but she shivered like she was cold. Mary walked the floor with her day and night, trying everything she could think of to help her youngest child. Sam had never seen Mary look so scared. She tried all the remedies her grandmother had taught her, but nothing seemed to help. The baby got worse instead of better. We need to take her to the doctor in town, Mary said on the third day of Margaret's illness. Sam looked out the window at the blowing snow. The road to town was completely blocked. Even if they could get through the snow, the doctor was 20 miles away. In weather like this, the trip could be deadly for a sick baby. We cannot travel in this storm, Sam said. We would never make it to town alive. Mary's eyes filled with tears. Then what do we do? I cannot lose her, Sam. I cannot lose another member of my family. Sam was surprised that Mary had called him by his first name instead of Mr. Mackenzie. She had never done that before, but he was even more surprised by how much it hurt him to see her pain. For 3 more days, they took turns walking the floor with baby Margaret. Sam found himself pacing his bedroom at 2 in the morning, holding the sick baby and talking to her in a quiet voice. Come on, little one, he whispered. You have to get better. Your mama needs you. We all need you. Sam had never thought he would care so much about a baby who was not even his own child. But somewhere during those long nights of worry, Margaret had become his responsibility too. All of these children had become his responsibility. On the 6th day of Margaret's illness, her fever finally broke. She opened her eyes and looked around with curiosity instead of pain. She took a bottle of milk from Mary and kept it down. By evening, she was smiling again. Mary cried with relief. Sam felt like a huge weight had been lifted from his chest. The other children, who had been quietly terrified that their baby sister might die, started laughing and playing again. But the crisis had shown Sam something important. Somewhere during those terrible days, these children had stopped being strangers. He was helping temporarily. They had become his family. The thought of losing baby Margaret had hurt him almost as much as it had hurt Mary. Just after Christmas, another challenge tested their fragile unity. The local school board sent a letter saying that the children needed to start attending the one-room schoolhouse 20 miles away, but they questioned whether Emma, Thomas, Sarah, and the twins should be enrolled, given their uncertain status at the ranch. The letter made Sam angry. What did they mean by uncertain status? These children lived on his ranch. They worked on his ranch. They were part of his household. The next morning, despite the snow and cold, Sam hitched up his wagon and drove all 5 children to the schoolhouse himself. He walked into the small building where 15 children of various ages sat at wooden desks, and he spoke directly to the teacher. These are the Mackenzie children, Sam said firmly. Emma, Thomas, Sarah, Jacob, and Joshua Mackenzie. They will be attending school here. The teacher, a nervous young woman named Miss Porter, looked confused. But Mr. Mackenzie, I thought these children were just visiting your ranch temporarily. They live on my ranch, Sam said in a voice that did not invite argument. That makes them my responsibility. Any questions about their education should be directed to me. Emma looked up at Sam with surprise and something that might have been gratitude. Thomas straightened his shoulders with pride. The younger children stayed close to Sam like chicks staying close to their protector. From that day forward, Sam drove the children to school every Monday morning and picked them up every Friday afternoon. The 20-mile trip each way was hard, on him and the horses, especially in winter weather. But he never missed a week. The other parents in the valley started to understand that Sam Mackenzie had taken responsibility for these children completely. They were not temporary visitors. They were his family now, even if no legal papers said so. Emma's 16th birthday came and went in January with little celebration. Money was too tight for presents or special treats. Mary managed to bake a small cake using precious sugar and eggs, but that was all they could afford. That evening, Emma approached Sam while he was reading by the fire. The other children were playing quietly, and Mary was mending clothes in the corner. "Mr. Mackenzie," Emma said quietly, "I want to thank you." Sam looked up from his book, surprised. Emma had been polite to him for months, but she had never been particularly warm or friendly. "Thank me for what?" "For giving us a home," Emma said. "For taking care of us when you did not have to. For making the school board accept us, for everything." Sam felt uncomfortable with her gratitude. "You do not need to thank me. You have all earned your place here by working hard and helping out." "No," Emma said seriously. "You did not have to keep us. You could have sent us away that first day. Most men would have. But you did not. You gave us a chance when we had nowhere else to go." Emma paused and looked around the small, crowded house that had become home to all of them. "I hated it here at first," she admitted. "I missed Boston. I missed my old life. I thought you were just a stranger who did not want us around. But I was wrong. You have been kinder to us than we had any right to expect. You have given us more than just a place to live. You have given us a family again." Sam felt a strange tightness in his throat. He was not good with emotional conversations, but Emma's words touched something deep inside him. "You are good children," Sam said simply. "All of you. Your mother raised you well." That night, as Sam lay in his bed in the barn, he thought about Emma's words. She had called him family. She had said he was kind. Sam had never thought of himself as particularly kind. He was just a practical man who tried to do what was right. But maybe that was enough. Maybe taking care of people who needed help was the same thing as being kind. The winter was far from over. There would be more storms, more challenges, more tests of their ability to survive together. But Sam no longer worried about whether this arrangement would work. They had already proven that they could face hard times together. They had become something more than a collection of strangers sharing the same house. They had become a family. Spring came late that year, but when it finally arrived, it brought hope and new possibilities to the ranch. The snow melted to reveal green grass pushing up through the earth. The cattle had survived the harsh winter, and the first calves of the season were being born healthy and strong. Sam stood on the porch one morning in early April, drinking his coffee and watching the children play in the yard. Emma was hanging laundry on the line while baby Margaret sat in a basket at her feet. Thomas was teaching the twins how to repair a broken fence. Sarah was collecting the first wildflowers of spring. For the first time in months, Sam felt relaxed and hopeful about the future. They had made it through the hardest winter he could remember. The family had grown stronger and closer during the difficult months. Even the ranch's finances were looking better, thanks to Emma's careful management and some good prices for their surviving cattle. Then Mary came out of the house carrying a letter that changed everything. "This came in yesterday's mail," Mary said, holding out an envelope. "It is from my brother William in Chicago." Sam took the letter and read it while Mary waited nervously beside him. William Wells wrote that he had finally received Mary's letter from months ago. He was sorry for not answering sooner, but he had been dealing with problems of his own. Now, however, he was in a position to help his sister and her children. William owned a successful mercantile store in Chicago and needed someone he could trust to help run it. He was offering Mary a job as his bookkeeper and store manager. The ideal job would pay $30 a month, which was enough to support her and the children. He also had a small apartment above the store where they could live rent-free. It is a good offer, Mary said quietly after Sam finished reading. More money than I could make anywhere else, a real job with a future, and the children would have better opportunities in a big city like Chicago. Sam felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. All winter he had been thinking of Mary and the children as permanent parts of his life. He had stopped wondering when they would leave and started planning for their future together on the ranch. Now he was reminded that their arrangement had always been temporary. Mary had never promised to stay forever. She had only asked for a chance to get back on her feet. Apparently she had done exactly that. When would you have to leave? Sam asked, trying to keep his voice steady. William says I could start work any time before summer. He wants to train me before his busy season begins in the fall. Sam nodded and handed the letter back to Mary. It sounds like a good opportunity. You should consider it carefully. That evening at dinner, Mary told the children about their uncle's offer. The reactions were exactly what Sam had expected. Emma looked thoughtful and interested. Chicago is a big city with lots of opportunities. I could probably find work there too and maybe even go to school to learn more about business. Thomas looked troubled. But what about the ranch? What about the cattle and the horses? Who will take care of them if we leave? The twins looked confused and frightened. Do we have to go? Jacob asked in a small voice. Can we take Rex and the chickens with us? Sarah started crying. I do not want to leave, Mr. Sam. This is our home now. Baby Margaret, too young to understand what was happening, continued eating her supper and babbling happily. Sam ate his dinner in silence, trying not to let his own feelings show. These children had a right to decide what was best for their future. He had no claim on them beyond the temporary arrangement they had made almost a year ago. After dinner, while Mary was putting the younger children to bed, Sam walked out to the ridge behind the house where he liked to go when he needed to think. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky pink and gold. The valley spread out below him, peaceful and beautiful. He had stood on this ridge many times over the years, but he had always been alone. Tonight, he could hear the children's voices drifting from the house behind him. Thomas was reading a story to the twins. Emma was singing a lullaby to baby Margaret. Sarah was asking Mary questions about what Chicago would be like. The sounds of family life that had once seemed so strange and overwhelming now seemed like the most natural thing in the world. Sam could not imagine going back to the silence and loneliness of his old life. But what choice did he have? He could not ask Mary to give up a good job and a secure future just because he had gotten used to having them around. He could not ask the children to stay on an isolated ranch when they could have better opportunities in a big city. An hour later, Mary found him still standing on the ridge, staring out at the darkening valley. The children are asleep, she said, coming to stand beside him. Well, most of them. Emma is still awake thinking about Chicago. It is a good opportunity for all of you, Sam said. Chicago will give the children chances they could never have here. Education, jobs, a future. Mary was quiet for a long moment. Is that what you think we should do? Leave? Sam wanted to tell her no. He wanted to ask her to stay, to marry him for real, to make their family permanent. But he could not ask her to give up security and opportunity for his selfish desires. I think you should do what is best for your children, Sam said carefully. And what about what is best for me? Mary asked quietly. Sam looked at her in surprise. In all the months they had lived together, Mary had always put her children's needs first. She had never talked about what she wanted for herself. What do you want, Mary? Mary was quiet for so long that Sam thought she was not going to answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I want to stay here. I want this to be our real home, not just a temporary stopping place. I want the children to grow up on this ranch, learning to work with their hands and take care of the land. I want to plant a bigger garden next year and preserve enough food to last through the winter. I want to help you build the extra bedrooms we talked about so everyone has enough space. She paused and looked up at Sam with tears in her eyes. But most of all, I want us to be a real family. Not just strangers sharing the same house, but people who choose to be together because we care about each other. Sam felt his heart racing. Mary, are you saying... I am saying that I do not want to go to Chicago. I do not want to leave this ranch or this life we have built together. But I will only stay if you want us to stay. Really want us to stay. Not just because you feel sorry for us or because you think it is your duty. Sam turned to face Mary completely. In the dim light from the house, he could see the hope and fear in her face. She was asking him to make a choice that would change all their lives. Mary, Sam said, his voice rough with emotion, I do not want you to leave. Any of you. When I read that letter today, I felt like my world was falling apart. I know I am not the husband you dreamed of when you were young. I am just a simple rancher with rough hands and awkward ways. But if you will have me, I want to marry you for real. I want to adopt those children legally and give them my name. I want us to be a real family in every way that matters. Mary started crying, but she was smiling at the same time. Are you sure, Sam? Are you really sure? Once we do this, there is no going back. You will be responsible for 5 children for the rest of your life. Are you ready for that? Sam thought about Emma with her gift for numbers and her fierce loyalty to her family. He thought about Thomas with his way with animals and his determination to do right. He thought about the twins with their gentle hearts and their love for all living things. He thought about Sarah with her endless questions and her joyful spirit. He thought about baby Margaret with her sweet smile and her complete trust in the adults around her. I am ready, Sam said. I have been ready for months. I just did not know if you would want to stay. Mary stepped closer and put her hand on Sam's chest right over his heart. I want to stay. We all want to stay. This is our home now. Under the stars on the ridge where Sam had spent so many lonely evenings, he and Mary made their choice. They would write to William Wells and decline his generous offer. They would stay on the ranch and build their life together. But first, Sam would ask Mary to marry him properly, with a real proposal and a real wedding, and all the promises that went with becoming a true family. As they walked back to the house, hand in hand, Sam could see Emma watching them from the kitchen window. When she saw them coming together, she smiled and quickly went to wake the other children. By the time Sam and Mary reached the house, all 5 children were waiting for them. In the front room, eyes bright with hope and excitement. Are we staying? Sarah asked, bouncing on her toes. Are we going to be a real family? Thomas asked seriously. Sam looked around at the 6 faces watching him expectantly. His family, not just his responsibility or his house guests, but his family. Yes, Sam said simply. We are staying, and yes, we are going to be a real family. The cheer that went up from the children could probably be heard all the way to town. The wedding took place on a warm Saturday morning in June at the little white church in Copper Creek. The whole town came to see Samuel Mackenzie marry Mary Catherine Wells and officially adopt her 5 children. Mary wore a simple blue dress that Emma had helped her sew from fabric they ordered from the catalog. It was not fancy, but it was new and clean and made her feel beautiful. Sam wore his best suit and had gotten his hair cut specially for the occasion. He was nervous, but when he saw Mary walking down the aisle toward him, all his worries disappeared. Emma stood beside her mother as maid of honor, wearing Mary's one good dress that had been altered to fit her growing frame. She held baby Margaret, who gurgled happily throughout the ceremony and charmed everyone with her bright smiles. Thomas stood proudly beside Sam as best man, wearing a new suit ordered from the Sears catalog. At 15, he was tall enough now to look Sam in the eye when they shook hands. The twins, Jacob and Joshua, served as ring bearers, walking solemnly down the aisle in matching shirts that Mary had made from the same fabric as her dress. 8-year-old Sarah scattered wildflower, petals from a basket, the same purple lupins and yellow black-eyed Susans that Sam had picked for Mary that first day at the train station. She took her job very seriously, making sure every step down the aisle was properly decorated with flowers. Reverend Patterson performed the ceremony with joy and enthusiasm. He had watched this unlikely family come together over the past year, and had seen how they had grown to love and depend on each other. Do you, Samuel Mackenzie, take Mary Catherine Wells to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live? I do, Sam said clearly, looking into Mary's eyes. Do you, Mary Catherine Wells, take Samuel Mackenzie to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live? I do, Mary said with tears of happiness in her eyes. After they exchanged rings, Reverend Patterson continued with the adoption ceremony that would make Sam legally the father of Emma, Thomas, Sarah, Jacob, Joshua, and baby Margaret. Do you, Samuel Mackenzie, promise to love and care for these children as if they were your own flesh and blood? Do you promise to provide for them, protect them, and guide them throughout their lives? I do, Sam said, looking at each child in turn. Emma smiled at him with gratitude and affection. Thomas stood straight and tall with pride. Sarah bounced on her toes with excitement. The twins grinned and waved. Baby Margaret clapped her hands as if she understood what was happening. Do you children accept Samuel Mackenzie as your father, and promise to honor and respect him as the head of your family? We do, all the children said together, their voices ringing through the small church. The townspeople who had initially viewed the arrangement with skepticism now saw how the children had thrived under Sam's quiet guidance, and how Mary had brought warmth and life to the previously solitary rancher. Mrs. Henderson, who ran the general store, wiped tears from her eyes. Old Pete Murphy nodded with approval. Even the banker, Mr. Caldwell, smiled as he watched the ceremony. When Reverend Patterson pronounced them husband and wife and father and children, the whole church erupted in applause and cheers. Sam kissed Mary gently, and then found himself surrounded by 5 children who all wanted to hug their new father at the same time. The reception was held in the church hall, with food contributed by every family in the valley. There was fried chicken and fresh bread, garden vegetables and fruit pies, and a beautiful wedding cake that the ladies of the church had made together. Sam and Mary danced their first dance as husband and wife to music played by old Jake Morrison on his fiddle. They were not graceful dancers, but they were happy, and that was all that mattered. Emma danced with Thomas, trying to teach him the proper steps and laughing when he stumbled. The twins danced together, spinning in circles until they got dizzy, and fell down giggling. Sarah danced by herself, twirling her skirt and pretending to be a princess at a royal ball. As the afternoon wore on, neighbors came up to Sam and Mary to offer their congratulations and welcome the family officially into the community. You have got yourself a fine family there, Sam, said Pete Murphy. That boy Thomas is going to make an excellent rancher someday, and that girl Emma has a head for business that could take her far. Mrs. Henderson patted Mary's arm and said, You have done a wonderful job with those children, dear. They are polite and helpful and a credit to you. And little Sarah is just a ray of sunshine wherever she goes. Even the children's teacher, Miss Porter, came to the wedding. Emma and Thomas are 2 of my best students, she told Sam and Mary. They work hard and help the younger children with their lessons. The twins are learning to read beautifully, and Sarah asks the most wonderful questions about everything we study. As the sun began to set, the family climbed into their wagon to return to the ranch. Sam helped Mary up to the front seat, and she settled baby Margaret on her lap. The other children piled into the back, tired but happy from the long day of celebration. Mrs. Mackenzie, Sam said to Mary as they drove through the valley toward home. Mary smiled at the sound of her new name. Yes, Mr. Mackenzie. Are you happy? Mary looked back at the children in the wagon bed. Emma was braiding Sarah's hair. Thomas was pointing out different birds to the twins. All 5 children looked peaceful and content, secure in the knowledge that they finally had a permanent home and a father who would take care of them. Yes, Mary said simply. I am very happy. As they reached the ranch, Sam looked around at the place that had been his solitary retreat for so many years. The house looked exactly the same, but everything felt different. The silence that had once filled the valley was now broken by children's laughter and conversation. The empty spaces were filled with life and energy and love. During the summer, Sam built 2 additional rooms onto the house so that everyone had enough space. Emma got her own room, which she filled with her account books and the novels she loved to read. Thomas shared the larger new room with the twins, and they filled it with collections of rocks and feathers and other treasures they found around the ranch. Sarah moved in with baby Margaret, appointed herself the baby's official protector and entertainer. Mary and Sam shared the main bedroom, finally able to have privacy as a married couple. The ranch prospered under the care of the whole family. Emma's management of the finances helped Sam make better decisions about buying and selling cattle. Thomas's natural skill with animals led to healthier livestock and higher profits. Even the younger children contributed, with the twins becoming expert chicken farmers and Sarah helping Mary expand the vegetable garden. By autumn, when the leaves turned gold and red on the mountains, the Mackenzie Ranch was known throughout the valley as one of the most successful operations in the area, but more importantly, it was known as the home of a happy family who had found each other against all odds. One evening in October, exactly a year after Mary and the children had stepped off the train in Copper Creek, Sam stood on his favorite ridge overlooking the valley. But this time, he was not alone. Mary stood beside him, holding baby Margaret, who was now walking and chattering constantly. The other children played in the yard below, their voices carrying up the hill on the evening breeze. "Do you ever regret it?" Mary asked quietly. "Giving up your quiet life for all this chaos and noise?" Sam thought about the question seriously. He remembered the man he had been a year ago, lonely, set in his ways, talking more to his cattle than to people. He remembered the silence that had filled his days and the emptiness that had filled his heart. Now his days were full of Emma's questions about the ranch accounts, Thomas's reports on the cattle, Sarah's endless chatter about everything she discovered, and the twins' excited stories about their animal friends. His evenings were filled with family dinners and homework help and bedtime stories. His quiet house had become a home filled with laughter and arguments and tears and joy. His simple life had become complicated and messy and wonderful. "No," Sam said firmly. "I do not regret it for a single moment. That quiet life was not really living at all. It was just existing." Mary smiled and leaned against his shoulder. "I am glad, because I cannot imagine being anywhere else or with anyone else." Below them, Emma was teaching Sarah how to milk the cow while Thomas showed the twins how to repair a gate. Baby Margaret toddled around the yard, chasing the chickens and laughing when they fluttered away from her. "Look at them," Mary said with pride in her voice. "Look how strong and happy they have become. Emma is turning into a fine young woman, with a good head for business. Thomas is becoming the kind of man his father would have been proud of. The younger ones are growing up healthy and confident and loved." Sam nodded, watching his children with deep satisfaction. "They are good children. We are lucky to have them." "They are lucky to have you too," Mary said. "You gave them something I could never have given them alone. You gave them a father and a stable home and a future they can count on." As the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of pink and gold, the Mackenzie family gathered on the porch for their evening routine.